Warren Buffett is worth over $100 billion today. But he built this massive fortune using a simple daily habit that costs absolutely nothing. He spends 80% of his working day doing exactly what he did when he was 10 years old. What is this quiet habit, and how exactly did it turn a normal boy from Nebraska into the most successful investor in modern history? Learn English with facts and fun. Listening, shadowing, main points on screen, and review at the end. The story of Warren Buffett begins long before he had billions of dollars. He was born on August 30th, 1930, in the city of Omaha, Nebraska. His family was not incredibly rich, but they were comfortable. His father, Howard, worked as a stockbroker. Because of his father's job, young Warren grew up around numbers, businesses, and books. Instead of playing with toys, Warren loved to look at numbers. When he was just a small boy, he memorized the populations of different American cities. He read the World Almanac for fun. He wanted to understand how the world worked, and he realized early on that reading was the best way to find out. By the time he was 10 years old, Warren started reading all the books in his father's office. He read books about the stock market, money, and finance. Most children would find these books boring, but Warren found them fascinating. He read every single finance book he could find. Soon, the books in his father's small office were not enough for him. Warren started taking trips to the local public library in Omaha. He walked through the doors and went straight to the finance section. He checked out every book about investing. When he finished reading them, he read some of them a second time. But reading was only the beginning of a much bigger plan. Warren did not just read for fun. He wanted to put his knowledge into action. When he was only 11 years old, he bought his very first stock. He used his small savings to buy 3 shares of an oil company. The stock price went down at first, which made him nervous. However, he waited patiently until the price went back up, and then he sold his shares for a small profit. This early experience taught him a very important lesson about patience. After he sold the stock, the price went much higher. If he had waited longer, he would have made much more money. He learned that successful investing requires a long-term view. He filed this lesson away in his mind. During his teenage years, Warren kept reading and learning. He also started several small businesses to make his own money. He delivered newspapers early in the morning. He sold chewing gum and bottles of Coca-Cola to his neighbors. He even bought old pinball machines and put them in local barbershops. By the time he finished high school, he had saved thousands of dollars. He already had more money than many adults. While his friends were going to parties, Warren was reading financial reports and looking for new ways to grow his savings. However, his most important discovery was not a business, but a specific book that changed his entire life. When Warren was 19 years old, he was studying at the University of Nebraska. One day, he picked up a new book called The Intelligent Investor. The book was written by a famous professor named Benjamin Graham. Warren opened the first page, and he could not stop reading. He later said that finding this book was the luckiest moment of his life. Before reading it, Warren saw the stock market like a game or a gamble. He looked at stock prices moving up and down, trying to guess what would happen next. Benjamin Graham's book gave him a completely new perspective. The book taught that a stock is not just a piece of paper or a moving number. A stock is a small piece of a real business. If you buy a piece of a good business at a low price, you will make money over time. This simple idea made perfect sense to Warren. He read the book over and over again. He internalized the concepts completely. He decided that he needed to learn directly from the man who wrote the book. This decision led him to take a step that would shape his entire future. Warren discovered that Benjamin Graham was teaching classes at Columbia University in New York. He quickly applied to the university so he could become Graham's student. When he arrived in New York, he was ready to learn everything his hero had to teach. In the classroom, Warren was the most eager student. He always raised his hand. He had already read all the assigned material before the class even started. He impressed his professor with his deep knowledge and his sharp questions. After he graduated, Warren wanted to work for Graham's investment company. At first, Graham said no, but Warren did not give up. He kept offering to work for free. Eventually, Graham hired the young man. Working for Graham allowed Warren to practice what he had read in the books. He spent his days reading thick financial manuals. He looked for companies that were selling for less than they were really worth. He read thousands of pages of boring financial data. He was looking for hidden gold in the numbers, and his reading habit helped him find it. Soon, Warren would find a hidden opportunity that proved the true power of relentless reading. In the early 1950s, Warren started reading about an insurance company called GEICO. He wanted to understand how the company worked. One Saturday morning, he took a train to Washington, D.C., where the company had its headquarters. When he arrived, the building was mostly closed because it was the weekend. However, he knocked on the door until a janitor let him inside. Warren found an executive who was working late. They sat down, and Warren asked him questions about the insurance business for 4 hours. Warren went home and read everything he could find about the insurance industry. He realized that GEICO had a brilliant business model. Because of his deep reading and research, he invested a large part of his money into the company. It turned out to be a fantastic investment. A few years later, Warren moved back to his hometown of Omaha. He decided to start his own investment partnership. He did not want to work on Wall Street. He preferred the quiet life in Nebraska, where he could sit in a room and read without any distractions. This quiet environment became the secret weapon of his massive success. In Omaha, Warren developed a daily routine that he still follows today. He wakes up early and immediately starts reading the newspaper. When he goes to his office, he does not spend his time in endless meetings. He does not stare at computer screens showing jumping stock prices. Instead, he sits in a comfortable chair and reads. He reads annual reports, financial journals, and business magazines. He estimates that he spends about 80% of his working day reading and thinking. He calls this process gathering facts. Warren compares his brain to a library. Every time he reads a new fact about a business, he files it away in his mind. He gathers thousands and thousands of facts. When an investment opportunity finally appears, he already has the knowledge he needs to make a quick and smart decision. People often ask him how to become smarter. He usually points to a stack of books and tells them to read 500 pages every single day. He explains that knowledge builds up over time, just like compound interest. Everyone can do it, but he knows that very few people actually will. One famous example shows exactly how this massive amount of reading pays off in the real world. In the late 1980s, Warren was reading the annual reports of the Coca-Cola Company. He had always liked the product, but he had never bought the stock. He started reading about the company's expansion into international markets. He read about their sales growing in Europe and Asia. He realized that the brand was becoming stronger all over the world. Because he had spent decades reading about consumer habits and business models, he saw a clear picture that other investors missed. He started buying shares of Coca-Cola. He bought millions of shares. Many experts on Wall Street thought he was crazy. They thought the stock was too expensive. But Warren ignored the noise. He trusted the facts he had gathered through his reading. Over the next several years, the value of his Coca-Cola investment grew massively. It became one of the most successful investments in history. He made billions of dollars, all because he sat in a quiet room and read reports that other people ignored. This deep focus requires a special kind of discipline. Warren says no to almost everything else. He does not attend many social events. He rarely gives long speeches. He limits his travel. He protects his time fiercely because his time is his most valuable asset. His entire day is designed around protecting his quiet time for reading. Even when technology changed the world, Warren kept his old habits. In the late 1990s, the internet boom created thousands of new technology companies. Investors were making quick money by buying internet stocks. They told Warren he was old-fashioned because he did not buy them. Warren simply kept reading. He read the reports of these new internet companies. He realized he did not understand how they would make real profits in the long term. Because he could not understand their business models through his reading, he refused to invest in them. When the internet bubble eventually burst, many investors lost all their money. Warren's company, however, stayed safe. His strict rule of only investing in what he understands protected his wealth. His reading habit gave him the confidence to ignore the crowd. Today, Warren Buffett is in his 90s. You might think he would finally stop working and relax. Instead, he still goes to the office. He still sits in his chair, and he still reads for hours every single day. His eyesight might be a little weaker, but his mind remains incredibly sharp. His reading habit keeps his brain active and engaged. His partner, Charlie Munger, also shared this intense love for reading. Charlie often said that he had never known a wise person who did not read all the time. Together, they built Berkshire Hathaway into a massive, successful company, simply by sitting quietly, reading carefully, and waiting for the right moments. Warren's story proves that success does not always require loud actions or stressful meetings. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is sit down, open a book, and focus your mind. He built a fortune of over $100 billion, one page at a time. His life shows us that knowledge is the ultimate advantage. The world is full of noise, opinions, and constant distractions. But the people who take the time to read, research, and understand the facts are the ones who ultimately win. Warren Buffett is living proof of that simple truth. This story of Warren Buffett reminds us that true success often comes from quiet, patient habits rather than loud, sudden actions. By simply dedicating time to read and learn every single day, he built an extraordinary life. Let's quickly go through the top tips. Stockbroker, a person who buys and sells company shares for other people. My uncle works as a stockbroker in a large financial company. Fascinating, very interesting, and making you want to know more. The stories she told about her travels were absolutely fascinating. Check out To Borrow Something, like a book from a library. I need to check out these 3 books for my history project. Put knowledge into action, to use what you have learned to do something practical. It's great to read about cooking, but it's better to put your knowledge into action. Long-term view, a way of thinking about the future over a long period. When investing money, it is important to have a long-term view. Financial reports, official documents that show a company's money situation. Before buying stock, he always reads the company's financial reports. Pick up. To get or buy something, sometimes without much effort. Can you pick up some milk on your way home from work? Eager, very interested, and excited to do or have something. The children were eager to open their presents on Christmas morning. Relentless. continuing in a strong way without stopping or getting weaker. The team's relentless effort helped them win the final game, turn out to be discovered to be something in the end. The difficult math problem turned out to be surprisingly easy. Pay off, to result in success or a good result after a period of time. All her hard work studying for the exam finally paid off. Valuable asset, a very useful and important person, skill, or thing. Her ability to speak 3 languages is a valuable asset for the company. Burst, to break open or apart suddenly, especially because of pressure. When the internet bubble burst, many people lost a lot of money. Ignore the crowd, to not follow what most other people are doing or thinking. It takes courage to ignore the crowd and follow your own path. Wise, able to make good decisions because of knowledge and experience. My grandfather is a wise man who always gives me good advice. Extraordinary, very unusual, special, or surprising. He built an extraordinary business from just a small idea. If you enjoyed this journey into the mind of the world's greatest investor, please subscribe and like the channel so you do not miss our future episodes.